The demo for Menace is finally here, and after playing for a few hours, I have some thoughts on the game. A lot of my problems with the game as it is in this demo are due to obfuscation. For example, when you're aiming at an enemy, you get a bar that gives you a low, medium, and high chance to hit. I don't have a problem with that just on the surface, but I have a problem with the bar behind it, which shows you the percentage chance to hit. I don't see why they don't just show you this as a number. After all, they are essentially showing it to you. You can clearly see a low medium and a high medium chance to hit. So I don't see why you just don't go all the way and show an actual number. I always think that in a strategy or tactics game, it's better to give players information so they can make better choices. So hiding this, or like pseudo-hiding it as it is here, I just don't really understand. I also have quite a few problems with the UI. Just straight up, for some reason, the buttons you can press are really small compared to this huge box you get that shows your current character. Do we really need such a big box which shows the character? I'd much prefer having the abilities and buttons you can press larger and clearer. Also, whenever you hover over anything, you get this massive box which gives you information about the weapon or unit, and personally, I don't really like this, mainly because a lot of what's in that box is flavor text, and flavor text is fine, but when I'm in a battle, I don't really want to be bombarded with paragraphs of flavor text when I'm looking at a gun trying to see how good it is. I definitely think flavor text is the sort of thing that should be for a codex or when you look at a gun before battles during the startup phase. But in battle, I really just want pure information about its use, not its flavor. What I do think is a great idea, though, is that when you hover over a gun, it tells you through small boxes about it, kind of like traits, where it says things like inaccurate, armor piercing, long range, or deployable. I think this is a great idea. I actually think this should be expanded to enemy units, because currently when you hover over enemy units, you just get a text box which tells you about them as flavor text. I would personally prefer if when you hover over them, it told you about them. For example, it said if they had a rocket launcher, if they had a sniper rifle, because you can already see these things. If you zoom in on the model of an enemy unit, you can see if they've got a sniper rifle, you can see if they've got a rocket launcher. So it might as well make it easier for you, the player, to see that by just telling you when you hover over them. Again, just giving the player more information instead of forcing them to jump through hoops to get it. Also, when you hover over enemies to attack them, you can get some basic information like if they're deployed, if they're in cover. I think that could be expanded a bit. For example, what kind of cover are they in? Since there are different levels of cover, I think it'd be good to tell the player exactly what sort of cover it is they're in, because due to how this game looks and how many buildings there are and how many structures you can hide behind it, it's quite hard to tell what level of cover something is. Like, sure, a big building is probably going to be full cover, but like a box of crates, that's like a quarter cover, and a slightly big box of crates, that's half cover. So again, just showing the player these things outright instead of having them be sort of told to you but not quite. Honestly, I'm not sure whether it's intentional by the devs, whether some of this information is shown but not well enough for you to make clear decisions, or whether they're actively trying to kind of hide information. There's also these little boxes that appear over units, both yours and the enemies, and I think these boxes are A, too small, and B, don't provide enough information. When you zoom in, you can't really see them closely, which is, you know, if I'm zooming in on them, I want to see them closely. I want to see the information directly. And of course, they tell you information like health, suppression, armor, but what they don't tell you is morale, funnily enough. And morale does seem to be a big mechanic here, because units can rout when they have no morale. They can run and leave the battlefield. But because it's not directly told to you, it's a little confusing. For example, I had a few scenarios where enemy units had run out of morale and were fleeing the battlefield, and some left the battlefield while others just like walked a few steps and then they were like, okay, now I'm going back to fighting. I'm not sure if that was a bug or if that was intentional, but if there is different levels of morale, like fleeingness, I think they should be shown to the player. On the other side, though, I can definitely see that showing morale might be something developers don't want to do because they might feel it might make the game too easy. Because if you can basically cause cascade effects where whole sections of the enemy forces rout due to taking losses. So I can see why the developers would want to hide it. But as I keep saying, I definitely think it's better to show information to the player so that they can plan and strategize around it. This is, of course, operating off the assumption that those people breaking and then immediately returning to fighting wasn't a bug. If it was, I don't really have a complaint, but I still feel like morale should be shown in some way on enemy units. And maybe we should be given information about morale levels. Maybe higher level enemies should have higher morale and lower level enemies should have lower morale and break easier or something like that. There's another thing that I think is going to be a big turn-off to people, and I don't know if it's just in this demo, whether it's going to be in the full game, but you cannot save during levels. I know it was like this in Battle Brothers, and I'm not sure if it's going to be like this in the full Menace release. Personally, it doesn't really bother me because I tend to play in Iron Man and stuff like that, so I don't do any save scumming most of the time. But I definitely think not being able to save in battles is a strange thing, because you never know when you're just going to need to stop playing and do something else. So being able to maybe just save on quit would be a good idea. Some sort of way that you can just preserve your state in a battle, even if they don't want to make it so you can save scum, it would be a good idea. But currently there's nothing like that in the game. And as I said, I'm pretty sure Battle Brothers never had anything like that. It may seem like I've been a bit negative here, but I didn't think it was a bad game. I actually quite enjoyed the demo, but my problem is that while I enjoyed it, it didn't wow me. It didn't blow my socks off and make me go crazy. It was very much in line with my expectations. I think Menace will be a good game, and I will wait for the full release to play it. But I don't feel any real desire to follow the development through early access. I'll leave that to more passionate fans. But I do think the developers need to choose whether they want to focus on hiding information from the player and just making the player's life more difficult, or whether they want to step back from that and actually just provide information to the player. A lot of the more popular tactics games give the player as much information as they like XCOM 2 gives you all the information to the point where there's kind of too much. So I personally come down on the providing information side of things. I'm not really sure what the point of hiding information is. Sure, it makes the game harder because you can't know everything and there's lots of things outside of your knowledge. But does that really make the game harder? It's not challenging you due to skill or talent. It's challenging you because it's hiding things. I also don't really like the roguelike style of things in the demo, but I assume that is just for the demo, and the main game will have a more strategic layer similar to Battle Brothers. So that's a very, very minor complaint and purely just for the demo. I do enjoy the base gameplay. I actually really like the idea of suppressing and holding enemies in place being really important, and basically your whole strategy kind of being based around this idea. And I'm looking forward to this idea being expanded eventually in the full game. But for now, I think that's everything I have to say. So thank you for watching. I'm sure there will be fans of Menace who hate everything negative I've had to say about it, and that's fine. I very much respect your points of view. I'd love to hear about them, actually. Do you think hiding information from the player makes for a better game? I'd love to hear your reasoning. Maybe there's something I just haven't realized that would convert me 100% into a hide information believer. If you've played the Menace demo, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you agree that information is kind of too hidden and the UI is kind of clunky and annoying to use? Or does it work fine for you and you don't have any problems? But thank you again for watching, and see you next time.